about like that Wednesday hearing held by the House Antitrust Subcommittee? You know, the one featuring Sundar Pichai of Google, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, and Tim Cook of Apple. If that didn't really feel like it was an antitrust hearing, it's because it just simply was not. You see, the Democrats so keen to not only vilify wealth, but also police speech, they want to use antitrust measures in order to create more control over private companies. It's the reason why they had very little to say about these companies' collusion with the Chinese Communist Party, and a whole lot to say about content that they would like to regulate. But if you look into the history of antitrust legislation, it wouldn't actually do any of this, at least for the company that was pertinent. Realistically, Facebook should be in its own hearing with Twitter. And if we're gonna talk about antitrust, we need to talk about its acquisitions. But that's not what Democrats were interested in. The closest corollary we have to the antitrust measures that Democrats want against Facebook would be Microsoft in the ruling in the DC Circuit Court of Appeals in 2001. The DC court initially ruled that Microsoft would have to be splintered off into two separate groups. One, for its Windows operating system, and second, for its other pieces of software. This includes Internet Explorer, Microsoft Office Word. So as you see, if this were applied to Facebook in the same way that regulators wish, it wouldn't actually change anything about Facebook.com. It would simply mean that WhatsApp would be its own company or Instagram would be its own company. And that would change nothing about Congress's ability to tell these companies what they can and cannot do to content posted to them. Now, there are plenty of reasons to be skeptical of big tech. First and foremost, as we've seen with huge international conglomerates like the NBA, China collusion is rampant. And especially in cases like Amazon, where their labor practices are highly questionable, it's worth investigating these. And talking about bias overall, sure, that's a necessary conversation, especially considering that as long as social media platforms do exhibit bias against conservatives, they'll have calls from both sides of the aisle coming to take them over. But that was not antitrust. And so long as we continue to exist in this fantasy that we can simply break up a company and police it, Congress won't just waste these businesses' times, but ours as well.